G'day and Swaddy Crab, and welcome to another fantastic day in Pattaya. Another great weather and a great morning here at the Pattaya City Expat Club at the beautiful Amari by the Sea, where we had not one but three talkers about something that we think won't happen to us. We're in denial, but it will happen to us. It was all about preparing for what's going to happen in the end, which is the inevitable, which is death. And we had three very, very interesting talkers that provoked a lot of very good and perspicacious, look it up in the dictionary, questions afterwards. And our first talker today was Kelvin Bamfield from Pattaya 888, which is a law firm in Jomtien. And he talked about the really importance of making a will. And so tell us about why it's so important to have a will made in Thailand.
Well, the will has to go to court, and it's a roadmap for the court and for the executor to make sure that they do the right job. So it has to go to court to be approved. And so without a will, someone dies intestate, then they cause a lot of problems because everything then has to go to the next of kin, and it may not be the person that you want your assets to go to.
And apparently only 56% of people have wills made, which is really frightening. Now, I've actually been an executor on 5 wills, right? And one was for my uncle, and he's actually lying in bed, over 80 years old, saying, and I'm saying, now is your will in order? He says, I don't need to worry about this. So denial's a big problem. And what you emphasised was really the importance of getting the executor right.
Yes, the executor is right, because some people have wills from overseas, and everything has to be translated into Thai to go to court. So if you don't read or write or understand Thai, then you're going to be going through a very steep learning curve, because in the courts you have to have a translator. I've been the executor in the courts, and that's an easy process, but all of the mountains of paperwork that are in Thai, even the death certificate, has to be translated and notarized. So I suggest that you really get a professional to do it. It will be so much faster.
And Thai 888 acts as an executor, is that correct?
That's correct. We do all that work because we have experience in it, and because we're with Alison Monkhouse Funeral Directors, we have a one-stop service centre, which is unique in Thailand. I don't think there's any other company that does that at the moment.
And one of the other things that came out of the discussion was it's not a bad idea if you don't feel comfortable with law firms, and let's face it, we've all had troubles with law firms, is that, well, maybe not you, but is that it's quite a good idea to have a co-executors.
You can have a co-executor, and I would suggest that if you have children and you want some assets to go to the children, because Thai law says that they need to be 20 years old to inherit certain assets. And so you might be waiting 10 or 15 years before that child can get access to those assets. But in the meantime, you need to have someone to safeguard that. And in Thailand, easy money is easily gone. And so there may not be anything left for the children in the future unless you have a co-executor.
And here's a red hot tip. There's a special price for getting a will made with Thai 888. They've got a website, thai888.com, but there's a big discount for members of the Pattaya City Expat Club. So I suggest you get your ass here, become a member, and then get your ass over to Pattaya 888 in Jomtien or somewhere else to get a Thai will made in Thailand. And you really need assets, one will for your assets, say, in Australia, and another will for your assets here in Thailand. Thank you, Kelvin. And I'm just going to, and he was saying that they have an arrangement with Alison Monkhurst Funerals, and I have the CEO of Alison Monkhurst Funerals. Well, that's what it said on the email. I lied, did they? I'm promoting you. No, he's like the local guru. Anyway, he's from Australia, so I expect this will be very entertaining, putting the fun back in funerals. So, and his talk was about the importance to have your funeral arrangements made in advance.
Absolutely. And I truly believe that is the case. Just reflecting back on what Kelvin was saying as well with power of attorneys, a lot of my experiences be that if I've got a niece that I'm dealing with, that she's looking after her auntie or whatever it might be, there's no power of attorney, there's no funeral. It's a really, really important thing to have. And the same with a prepaid funeral. Situations being, I'm with a family. The family are a niece or a nephew. they cannot sign the contracts unless they can produce a power of attorney. So it is very, very important to have that done. And that's for everyone involved.
And the other thing too, a question that came up, you can prepay a funeral. So how much would it be for a very, say, a basic cremation where you weren't sending the ashes back overseas?
This is here in Thailand. It's 35,000 baht to do your cremation here. That does include your coffin, your urn, all your legal documents, and a 3-day process through the mortuary and transportation to and from wherever it is that you passed away. So not a bad price, really, 35,000 baht.
No, I think it's a very reasonable price, and it takes a lot of pressure. And then you can put other things in your funeral arrangements about, how you'd like to be remembered and all that sort of thing and stuff. And what the other question that came up is, what if you are unlucky enough to die outside of Thailand and you have a prepaid funeral?
Having a prepaid funeral and die outside of here, again, you can be brought back into the country. That would be a cost involved, though. If you were travelling out overseas, bringing yourself back here, again, is going to cost you quite a bit of money unless you've got really, really good travel insurance. So make sure if you are travelling overseas that you have the best travel insurance, because it can cost you thousands of dollars in airfares and freight to bring you back here. So it is important to do that. So travel insurance, top notch.
But also you can send the money to another funeral director overseas if necessary.
That's right. If the family member decides they're leaving Thailand and want to go back to their own country, again, that's very, very easy to do. All they need to do is disclose to the new funeral director that they find, and whether it's England, America, Australia, wherever it might be, nominate your funeral director. They will get in contact with the financial fund, and that will be, again, sent through at that need time. So it's something that you have to just do as a process, but it's something that you do have to do.
Well, that's thanks to Jeffrey Robinson from Alison Monkhurst Funerals in Bangkok. And our third and by no means last speaker today was from the British Embassy. It's Julian Blewett, who is a Vice Consul, who was kind enough to come and give us a very detailed look at what his sort of services are with the British Consulate. And your section really deals with emergency sorts of things, doesn't it?
That's right, and that includes things from arrests to family issues to death to hospitalizations, accidents, anything where something goes really wrong. Our team are usually involved.
And so can you give us just a brief overview of what happens? Say somebody, hopefully it's not us that dies, hopefully it's our best friend instead, somebody that we know. How does the British Consulate, how soon should you be contacted, etc.?
Well, it all depends really on the type of, how the death takes place, whether it's in hospital, whether it's at home, or whether it's unexpectedly somewhere. Normally, we get notified by the next of kin, by the wife, the partner, or indeed the hospital. But sometimes it happens unexpectedly and out on the street or something. And what happens is the Thai authorities have a responsibility to notify the embassy because they're a foreign national. We will then try and contact the next of kin. And that's why it's really important as foreign nationals, we need to carry our passport around with us all the time. But in the back of that passport, we've got down who our emergency contacts are, because that's who we'll be making contact with. And if we don't have that information, that can cause a real delay, and your loved ones may be the last person to find out, or they may well find out through the news. Once we've made contact with the families, then we will then provide them with our information about what happens when someone dies in Thailand, and that will have a list of funeral directors, and that will give them all the options available, whether they're locally cremated, whether they're repatriated back to their home country, back to the UK, number of options, and we try and take the families through that information. The other thing we have is a sort of lawyers list that we provide, and that's an independent list. We don't recommend any particular company.
Well, there you go. That was a very... thank you to Gillian Blewett from the Bangkok Embassy. And by the way, all these talks, and they're very, very important talks, they'll be posted by Tuesday on the Pattaya City Expat Club YouTube website channel, and also then on their Facebook. You can like us on Pattaya City Expat Club. And so some really important talks. Go online, have a look at them, and I hope to see you back here next week, that you're not died before then. And never forget that Pattaya is a great place to live, and it's a great place to die also. But for now, goodbye from me, Ren Alexander, thanking all my guests on behalf of Pattaya Mail and Pattaya City Expat Club. Swati Krab, and see you next week.